Imagine waking up one morning and realizing that the world you've trusted, the reality you've relied on, might not be real at all. What if the things you scroll past, the news you consume, the influencers you admire, are nothing more than shadows on a wall? This isn't just a thought experiment. It's the timeless warning of Plato's cave. And the unsettling truth is that in 2025, we may still be chained more tightly than ever before. Plato's allegory of the cave is one of the most haunting metaphors in the history of philosophy. Chained in a dark cavern, prisoners can only see flickering shadows projected on the wall. They mistake these shadows for reality itself. To them, the echoes of unseen voices are truth, the silhouettes of passing figures are life. But in truth, they are prisoners of illusion. The cave is not just a story about ancient Greece. It is a mirror reflecting our condition today, perhaps with even more accuracy than in Plato's time. Think about it. We wake up, unlock our phones, and instantly enter a flood of curated images, addictive algorithms, and endless scrolling. How different is this from staring at shadows? Our minds are captivated by glowing screens, our emotions manipulated by the rise and fall of trends, our sense of reality shaped by forces we cannot see. The cave is not underground anymore. It's in our pockets, on our desks, and in our homes. The walls of the cave are digital, and the shadows are pixels. But here's the frightening part. In the ancient allegory, the chains were visible. The prisoners knew they were bound. In 2025, our chains are invisible. We call them freedom of choice, yet our choices are carefully engineered. We call it connection, yet often we feel more isolated than ever. The illusion has become more convincing than the real. And perhaps that's what makes Plato's warning more urgent than ever before. Consider how many hours you spend scrolling through images that are carefully edited, filtered, and staged. Consider how much your mood shifts when a post gains likes or falls flat. These are the shadows we now mistake for meaning. Just like the prisoners in the cave, we confuse reflections for truth. But unlike them, we have no flickering fire behind us. We have corporations, algorithms, and global industries projecting the shadows we consume. The fire has become far more sophisticated, and so have the chains. Yet Plato does not leave us in despair. The allegory describes one prisoner who dares to break free. At first, he resists. The light hurts his eyes. He doesn't want to believe that everything he once trusted was false. But gradually, his vision adjusts. He sees the fire, the puppeteers, and eventually the sun itself. He encounters reality in its raw form, dazzling and painful, yet liberating. This is the invitation of philosophy, to walk out of the cave, to face the discomfort of truth, and to live in the light. But let's pause and ask, in 2025, what does it mean to break free? What would it mean to turn away from the shadows we've grown addicted to? For many, it might mean questioning the constant barrage of information, refusing to take every headline or viral post as truth. It might mean unplugging, sitting in silence, listening to your own thoughts instead of drowning them in noise. It might mean daring to seek wisdom in books, ideas, and conversations that aren't trending. To escape the cave is not to reject technology entirely. It is to reclaim the power to see beyond it. Still, the journey is not without resistance. Plato reminds us that when the freed prisoner returns to the cave to liberate the others, they laugh at him. They think he's insane. They ridicule the idea that their shadows are not reality. And if he insists too strongly, they might even kill him. This part of the allegory stings because it shows us that liberation is not just about personal awakening. It is about the courage to confront a society that prefers illusion to truth. In our world, speaking against the shadows can bring ridicule, cancellation, or rejection. The question is, are we willing to risk it? In 2025, the cave is not only digital. It is cultural, political, and even spiritual. We are told what to believe, how to feel, and who to fear. We are bombarded with narratives designed to keep us chained. And the more convincing the shadows, the less we question them. But isn't this exactly what Plato warned us against? is that the greatest danger is not physical imprisonment, but mental captivity? That to be chained in the mind is to never taste freedom at all? This allegory is not a relic of philosophy. It is alive, urgent, and burning with relevance. The question is no longer whether the cave exists. It does. The question is, do you even realize you are inside it? But let's take this further. Imagine the prisoners are not chained to a cave wall anymore, but to glowing screens. The shadows are no longer projected by firelight, but by algorithms, data streams, and digital feeds. The cave is no longer a damp cavern beneath the earth, but the endless scroll of curated content, designed to captivate, pacify, and distract. The shadows are advertisements, viral videos, clickbait headlines, and influencers' polished lives, projected for us to consume, one after another, until we mistake them for truth. Are we truly different from those ancient captives, or have we simply traded stone walls for digital ones? In Plato's story, one prisoner is freed. He stumbles out of the cave, blinded by the overwhelming brilliance of sunlight. At first, he resists. The light hurts. The truth destabilizes. But slowly, his vision adjusts. He sees the world as it truly is: color, depth, life, and beauty beyond the shallow shadows. Now think about our world. What would it mean to step outside our own digital cave? What would it mean to face the painful brightness of reality, stripped of filters, stripped of illusions, stripped of comforting lies? Could we even handle it? Or would we beg to go back to the shadows that feel safer, easier, more familiar? This is where Plato's allegory becomes more than just an ancient myth. It becomes a mirror held up to us in 2025, forcing us to ask whether we are willing to confront the painful brilliance of truth, or whether we prefer to stay chained in darkness, entertained but deceived. The question isn't abstract anymore, it's personal. Because every time you look at your screen, every time you consume another carefully crafted narrative, every time you silence the voice inside that whispers, something isn't right, you choose the cave again. You choose the shadows. But what happens if you break free? Let's be honest, freedom isn't glamorous at first. It's disorienting, confusing, even painful. Stepping outside of the cave requires you to question your beliefs, to confront uncomfortable realities, and to accept that much of what you thought was real was only a projection. Think about how people react when confronted with inconvenient truths today. Denial, anger, mockery. Doesn't this mirror Plato's freed prisoner, who returns to the cave to rescue the others, only to be ridiculed and rejected? People often cling to the shadows because reality feels too heavy, too disruptive, too dangerous. And yet, Plato insists there is no higher calling than to see the truth. The real tragedy is not that the prisoners are chained, but that they prefer their chains. The fire and the shadows become comforting. The illusions become identity. To break those chains is to risk loneliness, alienation, and fear, but also to open the door to wisdom, to freedom, to true peace. And isn't that what we are all searching for? Not just comfort, but meaning. Not just distraction, but clarity. So here's the haunting question. In 2025, are we really outside the cave, or are we more deeply chained than ever before? With artificial intelligence generating new layers of illusion, with virtual realities more immersive than anything before, with deepfakes blurring truth and lies until they are indistinguishable, the cave has become more sophisticated, more seductive. The shadows are more convincing than ever. Some even argue that leaving the cave may no longer be possible, because the boundaries between shadow and reality are collapsing into one seamless spectacle. But even if the illusions grow stronger, does that not make the search for truth even more urgent? What would it mean to rebel against the cave today? Perhaps it would mean pausing before you consume, questioning instead of accepting, observing instead of reacting. Perhaps it would mean stepping away from the noise, into silence, into reflection. Perhaps it would mean reclaiming your own vision, instead of relying on shadows someone else projects for you. Maybe freedom isn't a dramatic escape into sunlight, but a daily practice of seeing more clearly, of refusing to let shadows define you. And yet, there's a paradox. To live in society, we cannot fully escape the cave. We need stories, symbols, shared illusions to make sense of the world together. Plato knew this, too. The philosopher who escapes has a responsibility not to stay outside, but to return, to guide, to help others see. That is the burden of awakening. Not to abandon the cave entirely, but to move between worlds, to carry light back into the shadows, even if no one listens. To be mocked, to be doubted, to be ignored, but to persist anyway, because truth is too precious to keep to yourself. So maybe the real question isn't whether we are still chained, but whether we are willing to notice the chains at all. Whether we dare to see the shadows for what they are, not as reality, but as projections. Whether we choose to take the difficult step into the blinding light, knowing it will change us forever. Whether we can return to the cave, not as prisoners, but as guides. And here is where the allegory becomes deeply personal. Ask yourself, what chains still bind me? What shadows am I mistaking for truth? What fears keep me clinging to the cave when freedom waits outside? The answers may not be comfortable, but they may be the only path to true awakening. So are we still chained? Perhaps more than ever. But chains are not destiny. They are only as strong as our willingness to accept them. Plato's cave is not just a story about ancient prisoners. It's about us, here, now. And maybe, just maybe, the moment you dare to question the shadows, the first link of the chain begins to break. What do you think? Are we more enslaved by illusions today than the prisoners in Plato's cave? Or are we on the verge of liberation? Share your thoughts below. And if this video gave you something to reflect on, don't forget to like it and subscribe for more explorations into philosophy, psychology, and the timeless truths that still shape our lives.